It's been a month since this climb, and I was a little bit reluctant to spend a lot of time consolidating this footage because, spoiler alert, I didn't make the summit. But I've decided to run with it because so often we see examples of where everything goes right. But the reality of this sport is that even if you do everything correctly, sometimes you come back disappointed for reasons entirely outside of your control. And you have to be prepared for that. Now, later on I use the word failure, but it's never really a failure as long as you come home safe and you get a good story out of it. So this is one of those stories. Fall is in the air, snow is on the ground, and for the first time in almost a decade, I'm here at Whitney Portal. My plans have been thrown a little bit for a loop, but I think I've got a good path ahead. Got about 40 pounds. I'm gonna get started. So until about a week ago, my plan was going to be to climb Mount Russell. Today's Friday, and on Tuesday, the Sierra got its first winter storm of the season, 1 to 3 feet of snow at the higher elevations. And Russell follows a narrow ridgeline most of the way up, so obviously lots of fresh snow would be a mistake. But Mount Russell is also in the Mount Whitney area, and since I had a permit anyway, I figured I would switch gears and give Mount Whitney another try. Now, I've climbed Mount Whitney before, back in 2016. It's probably an ill-advised trip, too early in the season, cold, practically whiteout conditions, and climbing into pretty serious altitude sickness. But despite all that, it was successful. We made it to the top, and I kind of got hooked on everything. Now, that was on the main trail. I'm over here on what's going to be the Mountaineer's route, which is the more difficult route, originally pioneered by the great John Muir, that follows a series of chutes on the north side of the mountain. The first little obstacle here is called the Ebersbacher ledges. Having learned a thing or two about ledges, I wasn't overly concerned about the traverse, but I was potentially concerned about snow and ice gathering here, but as we can see, it's in full sun, so all good there. I'm going to sit and let my boots dry a little bit, and then I'll let you know how it is. Yeah, they really don't live up to the hype. There's a part right at the beginning where it narrows and a fall would be catastrophic, but you wouldn't fall off a sidewalk, for example, so I'd say these are pretty much a non-issue. This side actually has a lot more sustained steepness as opposed to switchbacks. You gain elevation fast, but it's also tiring. It's hot when we're in the sun, and then you get into a shady spot and it's all snow, so it's an interesting dichotomy there. Making pretty good time, probably about 1,000 feet, and I'll start thinking about setting up camp. This is what I've been working with. Looks like your group came through within the last couple of days. Left a pretty good trail. It's been a lifesaver. Found a good campsite right around the corner from Upper Boy Scout Lake. It's got about everything I could ask for. It's dry, reliable water source. So I am going to start making dinner. Sunset is at 6:15, so not that much time left. I'm losing my son here in this spot. When I lost the sun, it got legitimately cold up here. Not a whole lot I can do besides just kind of sit in my tent. Had a decent dinner, so it's not even 6 o'clock yet. I imagine it's going to be a long night. There was a guy who came down from a Mount Russell attempt. Said it was super icy along the ridge line, so it looks like it was a good idea that I switched gears last minute. Not a lot of light left. I think at this point all I can really do is retreat into the tent. Ironically, I think it's actually gotten a little bit warmer over the last couple hours. It's barely 7 o'clock, but with a 4 a.m. wake-up call, I think this is probably for the best. Got a little bit of a headache, but that's standard procedure for up here. I got tons of time to acclimate. It's right about 4:30. I'm all geared up. It's a really dark night. Stars are really bright, but I'm feeling pretty good. Plenty good enough to start moving up. Yeah, I didn't sleep super well last night, but seemed to be moving along okay. First light off in the distance, that's always a relief. Finally starting to see it up there. It's pretty spooky. Just over this hump is Iceberg Lake. Kind of marks the start of the real Mountaineer's route. I had a little bit of trouble connecting the lower section up to the lake. First chute I took ended up being really icy. I thought it might have been over for me, but proceeded a little bit further down, found one that was suitable. We got a lot of sun right now. I'm a little bit behind schedule based on the time sync, but navigation's easy from here. I just have to start going up the mountain. Just for orientation, that's Mount Russell. That's Whitney with the chute on the right there. And somewhere over that ridge is the main Whitney trail. Yeah, the snow is garbage right now. It's starting to feel hot. Silver lining is that the main chute is in shade most of the day, so maybe that'll be a little bit better. But if it keeps going like this, I might have to reevaluate things. Headed up that snowy section. That's how bad the snow is. I've had to resort to a set of rocks on the right side, and that option's running out. So it's kind of the moment of truth. If the snow stays this bad, I don't know if I can pull it off. Alright, it's the moment of truth now. I've run out of rocks, so I got to transition over to the snow. So if it's good, I keep going, and if it's bad, go back home. Yeah, first couple steps, minimum knee deep. It is just not the type of snow you want to climb in. Avalanche danger is always slightly a concern. It doesn't really look like that, but just the slow crawl it takes to get to the top. It's 10:30. It's just not going to happen today. There's the notch right there, within about 1,000 feet of the summit. I'm back at Iceberg Lake. It's amazing how much quicker coming down is than going up. The way the snow is clumping makes me think I made the right decision. I don't think there's any shame in calling it off when the conditions dictate. It's not like giving up, but I feel fine. Energy levels are good, but it just wasn't the day. And of course I've seen what it looks like on the summit before. I mentioned it's pretty similar from 10 years ago, and it'll still be there if I want to give it another try later on. Sure is beautiful though. It is super hot. It's been jarring, the wild temperature ranges that I've experienced on this trip. In the shade it's nice, and then you get into the sun and you just feel like you're burning up. It's a long way down still. At least you can see my tent now. Grab some lunch down there and hopefully get out of here at a decent time. It was some slow moving, but I'm finally back at camp. I'm gonna feast on a very sad lunch of ramen and Slim Jim, pack up and try and get out of here. Feels a little bit late, honestly. Not even 2 o'clock yet, but the short days will do that. Back on the road again. It's interesting, I think I was the only summit attempt today. For such a busy mountain, it's interesting to see, but there was just a blizzard, so it happens. A lot of times snow is easier to walk downhill in, but the snow here is so shallow and soft. You never know what's underneath. It could be a rock, could be just a hole that you fall into. I've been busting up my knuckles, knees, and elbows all day. Fortunately, most of it's gone. There's a little bit down by the lower creek that I'll have to pass, but it wasn't too bad. I followed a pretty obvious trail down the hill. Looked like it was going to bypass the ledges below. Turns out it just led to nowhere. It took me on a convoluted bushwhacking adventure. Got a little piece of plant embedded in the corner of my eye and pulled it out, but it was kind of freaky. Always a relief to get back onto the main trail. It's been some slow moving today. This last mile should be faster. Just nice, easy trail. Alright, I'm all done. Needless to say, the suck to triumph ratio was not in my favor for this climb, which is ironic because it was a step down physically and technically from the rest of my summer's climbs. But they had perfect conditions, and this one had about as bad conditions as I could get. That's just the way it is sometimes. Glad to be done. Glad there's still a little bit of light. Can't win them all, right? Yeah, I like to think that every failure is a lesson learned, so we'll see what that might be in future climbs. Mount Whitney is really an awesome mountain. There's a reason why it's so popular. Not just because it's the highest point in the lower 48, but because it's beautiful, it's impressive, it's accessible for a lot of people. I might actually be a little bit Whitneyed out after 80% of the Mountaineers route and summit on the main trail, so I don't really know if I'm going to be motivated to go back there. Russell, on the other hand, I think is worth another shot. So, based on this, it's pretty clear that this year's climbing season is over. I'm kind of okay with that. I'll give me a little bit of time to think about things and move forward into next summer. Signing off. Of course, I could always switch gears, start making cooking videos, maybe board game reviews. That might be a good option.